Hello friends, welcome back to our channel Kiddocs. Myself Dr. Rana Chanchal. Today in this video, I'll be sharing with you the guidelines that we have regarding the management of newborn babies who are born to a COVID positive mother or a suspected COVID positive mother. In this guideline, I will be discussing about the delivery and post-delivery management of a newborn in which the mother is suspected to have COVID-19 or is confirmed COVID-19 positive. Just to let you know that this video is again directed towards the medical fraternity, especially the doctors working in a neonatal unit or a pediatric unit, and along with the pediatric and neonatal teams, this guideline will also help our obs and gynae friends who are there during the time of delivery, and there are certain points which they need to take care of. So without any delay, let's start this video. So here I'm trying to share all the guidelines which we have currently. The guidelines I'm going to discuss in this presentation is basically given by a joint effort of Federation of Obstetric and Gynecological Society of India, the Neonatology Forum of India, and Indian Academy of Pediatrics. So this is basically provides guidance to the clinicians and the policy makers for management of a pregnant woman exposed to COVID-19 and their neonates. Whereas in this presentation I would be focusing more towards the delivery part and the neonatal management part. As the situation is rapidly evolving and there are new evidence is emerging virtually every day, check the latest updates from the authentic sources like ICMR, the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare of India, WHO websites and CDC websites to make sure that we are up to date with the management of COVID-19. Let's discuss about the delivery and what precautions or what changes we should bring into our practice to manage a case where the mother is suspected to have COVID-19 or has confirmed COVID-19. So the first thing is we have to have a separate labor room or a OT for managing a case of suspected or confirmed COVID-19 mother. If it is not possible, both LR or OTs should have a neonatal resuscitation corner located at least 2 meters away from the delivery table. The resources required are the same as that is required in a normal delivery or a normal scenario of cesarean section, but we just need to keep in mind that we have to wear the full PPEs and N95 mask during delivery. Infection control standards required in these areas should be the same as that for an adult who is suspected to have or confirmed COVID-19 infections. So regarding the infection control standards, there is nothing different for a pregnant woman or a woman who is going to deliver as compared to a normal COVID patient or an adult having COVID. Next is the mode of delivery. Mode of delivery should be guided by the obstetric assessment and mother's physiological stability depending on her cardiorespiratory status and her oxygenation. Per se, COVID-19 infection itself is not an indication of induction of labor or operative delivery. Continuous fetal monitoring should be done during labor. Oxygenation status of the mother during labor should be monitored by a pulse oximeter, and oxygen therapy should be titrated to maintain an oxygen saturation of more than 94%. So this was about delivery. Coming to the neonatal resuscitation part. So first of all, as already said, that if possible, resuscitation of a neonate can be done in a physically separate adjacent room. If it is not feasible, the resuscitation warmer should be physically separated from the mother's delivery area by at least 2 meters. Minimum number of personnel should be attending the delivery according to the NRP. If it is a low risk, even one person is sufficient, whereas in high risk cases where extensive resuscitation is required, we might have to choose 2 people for the resuscitation. This is a very important point that generally we prefer to delay cord clamp in a normal baby, but here in a mother who is having COVID-19 or is suspected to have COVID-19, the umbilical cord should be clamped promptly. So we should not be practicing delayed cord clamping, as we don't have enough evidence at the moment to say that there is no transplacental or vertical infection. So we have to do immediate cord clamping as soon as the baby is delivered. As for now, the guidelines are very dubious, but if possible, skin to skin should be avoided in the delivery room. Again, just follow the standard NRP guideline. If positive pressure ventilation is needed for the neonatal resuscitation, self-inflating bags or AMBU bags and masks should be preferred over T-piece resuscitator. Stable neonates exposed to COVID-19 infection from mothers or other relatives should be roomed in with their mothers and be exclusively breastfed. So if the baby is stable enough and if the mother is stable enough, they should be roomed in, they should be kept together and not separated, and we should try and exclusively breastfeed these infants as we do in a normal baby. If rooming in is not possible because of sickness of the neonate or of that of the mother, the neonate should be fed express breast milk of the mother by a nurse or a family member who is not being in contact with the mother or any other suspected or proven cases. Our whole aim should be to give mother's milk to the baby. If it is possible to room in the mother and the baby, we should try and breastfeed. If it is not possible, we should try and give express breast milk to the mothers. It can be given by a nurse or a family member who is not exposed. Coming to the post-delivery management, there can be two scenarios depending on the resources. So in scenario one, where resources for isolation of a normal suspected to be infected or infected mothers is not available, or the healthcare facilities are overwhelmed because of the large number of COVID-19 infections and cases in the hospital, or there is evidence of community spread. In this scenario, a healthy neonate may be roomed in with the mother. So basically this mother and baby pair should be separated and they should be roomed in together from the non-infected patients. Direct breastfeeding should be given. Mother should wash hands frequently, including before breastfeeding, and wear a mask. If safe, early discharge to home is followed by telephonic follow-up, or a home visit by a designated nurse or an ANM may be considered. We have made a full video on breastfeeding and skin to skin contact and what are the feeding options. If a mother is suspected to have COVID-19, you can go and check that video too, because it is a very detailed video on breastfeeding and other scenarios in a COVID positive or a suspected mother. Coming to the next scenario, if the resources for isolation of a normal suspected mother can be made available and if there is no evidence of community spread, an immediate cord clamping should be done. The neonate should be isolated from the mother after delivery. During isolation, healthy neonates should preferably be cared by a family member not in contact with mother or other suspected or proven cases. So again, this guideline suggests that we should separate the babies if there are facilities available. Whereas the WHO guideline is a bit contrary to this, where WHO clearly says that we have to keep the mother and the babies together. If safe, while mother is in isolation, early discharge to home should be done and a telephonic follow-up should be done, and if possible, there should be a designated nurse for a home visit. While the baby and the mother are being separated, again the whole idea is to give mother's milk, so mother can express the milk after washing her hands and breast while wearing mask, and this express breast milk can be given to her baby without pasteurization. So we don't need to boil the milk of the mother, so we can give it directly as long as it has been expressed with all the precautions. Mother and baby can be roomed in once the mother has been tested and declared to be clear of all the infections. So continuing with the management, so far we have discussed about the asymptomatic babies. So if the baby is symptomatic and is suspected to have COVID-19 or confirmed COVID-19 case in the mother, should be ideally managed in a separate isolation. If it is not feasible to separate the neonate from the other baby because there is no availability of a separate facility, neonate with suspected or confirmed infection should be segregated in the neonatal unit as far as possible, and there should be a sufficient distance between the two cohorts, suspected positive babies or not positive or non-suspected normal neonate babies. Negative airborne isolation rooms are preferred for patients requiring aerosolization procedures such as respiratory supports, suction, nebulization, etc. This negative pressure can be created with the help of 2 to 4 exhaust fan driving air out of the room to decrease or minimize the risk of cross infection to the other neonatal babies. The doctors, nursing staff and the other support staff working with COVID patients or COVID neonates should have a proper isolation room and should be separate from the ones who are working regularly in the regular NICU and SNCU. There should be 2 teams of doctor and the support staff to manage the COVID patients and the regular or non-COVID patients. The staff should be provided with adequate supplies of personal protective equipment. There should be a proper donning and doffing training for all the staffs, including the doctors. Respiratory support for neonates with suspected or proven COVID-19 infection is again guided by the principles of lung protective strategy, including use of non-invasive ventilation. NIPPV and high flow nasal cannula should preferably be avoided because there is more risk of aerosol or virus spread in the atmosphere if we use NIPPV or high flow nasal cannulas. So this is a very important slide. Clearly states in these guidelines that antiviral chloroquine or hydroxychloroquine is not recommended in symptomatic neonates with confirmed or suspected COVID-19. So we should not be using any specific antivirals as we are using at some of the adults, or there are some antivirals which have shown some promising results in adults, but we haven't got any study to say that these drugs are effective or are safe in neonatal age group. So we should not use these drugs in babies. Apart from this, the use of adjunct therapy such as systemic corticosteroids, IVIG is not recommended in symptomatic neonates with confirmed or suspected COVID-19. Neonates have improved only on supportive management, so we should continue with the supportive management. So after discussing the management of COVID-19 in neonates, we need to define a proper testing protocols for neonates who are born to mothers with suspected or confirmed COVID-19 cases. I think there is a bit of dilemma that which neonates should be screened, when to screen these baby, and whether we should repeat the test at some point or not. So first of all, to answer which neonates should be screened, newborns to mothers with COVID-19 infection should be screened within 14 days of delivery or up to 28 days after birth. Symptomatic neonates exposed to close contacts with COVID-19 infection should be screened. So these are the two main indications when we have to screen a neonate. So the next question is when to screen. If symptomatic, specimen should be collected as soon as possible. If asymptomatic and roomed in, so if the baby is asymptomatic, not showing any symptoms and is roomed in with mother, test only if and when mother's test comes positive. So if the mother is positive, then we have to test. If the mother is still suspected, we have to test the baby only if mother becomes positive. If mother is COVID-19 positive and baby's initial sample is negative, another sample should be repeated at 48 hours of life. So this is very important. Again, what sample should be tested? If the baby is not mechanically ventilated, upper respiratory nasopharyngeal swab, which we are taking as in adults, should be collected. Collection of oropharyngeal swab is lower priority, and if collected should be combined in the same tube as for the nasopharyngeal swab. So this is the only difference as compared to adults. We just need to be very careful about this, taking a nasopharyngeal swab in a newborn baby, because recently there was a case where the neonate started bleeding and bled very profusely so as to get admitted in the NICU, and further management was done. So we need to be very careful in neonates if we are taking a nasopharyngeal swab. If the baby is mechanically ventilated, tracheal aspirate should be preferred over nasopharyngeal swab and should be because it gives the sample from the lower respiratory tract. Labeling the sample is again very important. Label each sample as with the hospital ID, the patient's name, specimen type, date of collection, as we do in the adults. Storing the sample is very important. Samples should be collected in a viral transport media procured from the microbiology lab and transported immediately in ice packs. So we should try and immediately transfer the sample in ice packs, and we should try not to delay it. One can use disposable thermocol cartons or plastic bags with ice cubes for in-house transport. So if we don't have the ice packs, we can use plastic bags with ice cubes for an in-house transport. If the testing is not available at your center and you're sending the samples to other labs, this sample can be stored for 72 hours at a temperature of 2 to 8 degrees centigrade. It should be stored in a designated or a separate refrigerated designated for this purpose, and it should not be mixed with other refrigerators carrying other samples or medications. If you expect a delay in testing or shipping is expected, so if the samples have to be sent outstation and if you expect that it will be delayed, you can store the sample at -70 degree or below, and for this you will need a deep freezer. And what test is being done? So again, it is the reverse transcriptase PCR, RT-PCR, which is a rapid test for detecting COVID-19, which is also done in adult patients. The next slide shows disinfection, which we should be carrying out. Disinfection of surface in the childbirth or neonatal care areas for patients with suspected or confirmed coronavirus infection are not different. So it is not different as compared to that of a normal labor room, OT, NICU or SNCU areas. Key point is follow the routine biomedical waste disposal, handling, segregation, transport and final disposal guidelines as prescribed by the Government of India. So there is nothing different on these aspects. The guidelines have been given for the visitors who will be coming in contact with these patients or babies. So parents and families of COVID-19 exposed, suspected and infected mothers and neonates should receive an informed healthcare guideline. They should be aware of and understand the isolation, monitoring, diagnostic and treatment plans of the mother and babies, and be given a periodic update about the health conditions. Visitors to both routine and COVID-19 specific childbirth or neonatal care areas should be screened for symptoms of COVID-19 infection. So all those who are coming to visit routine or COVID-19 specific patients or centers, they should be screened for symptoms of COVID-19. So we are not saying that we should be testing them, they should be screened just for the symptoms. Healthcare professionals directly involved in the care of patients may consider taking hydroxychloroquine prophylaxis as advised by the Government of India on a medical prescription. However, this advisory is based on very low quality evidence and may change in near future. Finally, coming to the discharge part of this guideline. So follow routine immunization policy in healthy neonate born to mother with suspected or proven COVID-19 infection. So routine immunization policies should be followed. In neonates with suspected or proven infection, vaccination should be completed before discharge from the hospital as per the existing policy. So there is no change in the routine immunization policy for a patient or a baby who has been born to COVID-19 mother. And if the baby is COVID-19 positive, again the baby should receive the birth vaccination before he or she is being discharged from the hospital. Stable neonates exposed to COVID-19, or if they are being roomed in with the mother who is COVID-19 positive, may be discharged at the time of mother's discharge. So we don't need to keep the neonates for a longer duration. If the mother is being discharged, even if the mother was positive and the baby was exposed to the mother, as long as the neonate is stable, the neonate or the baby can be discharged home with the mother. Stable neonate in whom rooming in is not possible because of the sickness of the mother and are being cared by trained family members may be discharged from the facility within 24 to 48 hours. Early discharge to home may be followed by a telephonic follow-up or a home visit with a designated nurse. Mother and family members should be counseled regarding the danger signs and advised to report back to the facility if the neonate develops any of these danger signs. So the caregiver should be told about all the danger signs to look for in a neonate. If the neonate develops any danger sign or becomes unwell during home isolation, he or she should be taken to a designated hospital facility for assessment as well as COVID-19 testing. Mothers and family members should perform hand hygiene frequently, including before and after touching and feeding the baby. So this is one of the most important steps to fight against this COVID-19, and we have to take care of the hand hygiene and the respiratory hygiene, especially when we are taking care of a newborn baby. Mothers should practice respiratory hygiene and wear a mask while breastfeeding and providing other care to the baby. They should routinely clean and disinfect all the surfaces. Respiratory hygiene and hand hygiene are the two important pillars to combat COVID-19, and we should not be ignoring any of these. Most likely these guidelines will be updated in the future, so we need to keep an eye on the official websites of WHO and CDC. Hope you've liked the presentation. Hope this presentation was useful for you. Try and share this presentation with all your colleagues who are not aware of the guidelines, so that they do the right thing and we all work together against fighting with this coronavirus pandemic. Thank you.